What if I told you that in order to truly succeed and to protect what matters most, you need to learn how to turn off your heart? Yes, I'm serious. Imagine being cold, calculating, unshaken, no matter the cost. Sounds harsh, doesn't it? But the truth is, in a world full of chaos and betrayal, that's often the only way to stay alive. Maybe you're feeling overwhelmed by your feelings, trust, love, hope, that keep you vulnerable, open to pain and disappointment. Maybe you've been betrayed, hurt, or left behind, and you're asking yourself, how do I protect myself? How do I win? Here's the harsh reality. The world doesn't care about your feelings. It rewards the ruthless, the strategic, those who can detach from emotion when necessary. Perhaps you've noticed that people you love, once trusted, can turn against you when it suits their interests. Maybe you're tired of feeling powerless against the game of life, caught up in emotions that only distract and weaken you. What if I told you that true strength comes from mastering your inner coldness, mastering the art of becoming emotionally unbreakable, even with those closest to you? Throughout this video, I'll reveal the mindset that Machiavelli understood long ago, the brutal truth about power and survival. You'll learn why, sometimes, love and compassion can be liabilities in a world driven by ambition and struggle. And more importantly, you'll discover how to develop that ruthless clarity, that calm detachment that allows you to make decisions without hesitation or regret. Because if you want to win, whether in your career, your relationships, or your personal battles, you need to understand, emotion is a tool, not a weakness. If this message stirs something inside you, if you've ever felt the sting of betrayal or the frustration of feeling powerless, then I invite you to subscribe now. Because here we don't sugarcoat reality. We dive deep into the truths that most are too afraid to face. Here, we learn how to become stronger, colder, more strategic. If you're ready to stop being a victim of your feelings and start mastering your destiny, then hit that subscribe button now. This is the first step toward transforming your mindset and your life. Remember, the difference between surviving and thriving is knowing when and how to turn off your heart. Have you ever felt like you're drowning in a sea of conflicting emotions, desperately clinging to hope while everything inside you screams to let go? It's as if your heart is caught in a relentless tug of war, torn between the desire to trust and the instinct to protect yourself from inevitable pain. You wake up each day with a heaviness in your chest, a subconscious weight that never quite lifts, reminding you that vulnerability is a weakness you can't afford. Inside, there's this constant chaos. One part of you yearning for connection, for love and acceptance, and another part screaming for self-preservation. It's a vicious cycle, a loop you can't seem to escape. You tell yourself to be stronger, to keep your guard up, but then, at night, those feelings seep in again, uninvited and relentless. You question whether it's weakness to feel this way or if it's simply human. But the truth is, you're caught in a web of emotional dependency, a cycle that keeps you tethered to pain and disappointment. You've built walls around your heart, thinking they'll shield you from future betrayals, yet all they do is imprison you within your own suffering. Every time you open up, you risk losing everything: trust, love, stability, and so you tighten your grip, retreat into silence, into numbness. You become a ghost of yourself, yearning for connection, but terrified of the inevitable heartbreak that follows. It's an emotional trap, a cycle of hope and despair that feeds on your own fears and doubts. Deep down, you know this isn't sustainable. You feel the exhaustion setting in, the weariness of pretending to be okay, of hiding the pain behind a mask of indifference. But even in that silence, there's a part of you that screams for relief, for freedom from this endless loop of emotional torment. You crave peace, yet it feels so distant, so impossible to attain. The more you cling to what you think will save you, the trust, the love, the more you feel yourself slipping into deeper despair. And in the quiet moments, when no one is watching, you wonder if this pain will ever end, if you'll ever find a way to break free from this cycle of internal suffering. And so, you sit with this ache, this gnawing sense that you're losing yourself piece by piece, trapped in an emotional prison of your own making, wondering if there's any way out or if this is all there is. An endless, unrelenting cycle of hope, betrayal, and heartbreak. You wake up in the morning, and the first thing you do is reach for your phone, scrolling through messages that go unanswered, calls that you let ring. You feel the weight of unspoken words pressing down on your chest, yet you keep going, pretending it's nothing. Maybe you tell yourself you're busy, that you don't have time to feel, to respond. But deep down, you know it's different. It's the quiet, persistent ache of distance. Distance from those you care about. Distance from yourself. A simple gesture, like a text that remains unsent, can sit heavy in your mind all day, a reminder of the walls you've built, brick by brick, to shield yourself from hurt. Throughout your day, you find yourself withdrawing. When someone tries to get close, whether it's a partner, a friend, or a family member, you respond with coldness, a subtle but deliberate emotional barrier. You might smile, nod, pretend everything is fine, but inside, there's a storm of conflicting feelings. You're afraid of being vulnerable, of opening up and risking betrayal or rejection, so instead, you keep a calculated distance, hiding behind a mask of indifference, convincing yourself it's the safest way to survive. You avoid eye contact, dismiss intimate conversations, and keep your responses short and mechanical. It's easier that way, less messy, less risky. At work, you might notice yourself resisting genuine connection. You hold back your true emotions, even when colleagues share their struggles or vulnerabilities. You're quick to change the subject, to detach from their pain, because facing it would mean exposing your own. You tell yourself that your strength lies in detachment, in maintaining control. But underneath, there's a quiet, persistent loneliness, a feeling that you're slowly losing your own humanity. You suppress tears, dismiss feelings of sadness or frustration, convincing yourself that feeling nothing is a form of discipline. Yet, each day, that emotional numbness gnaws at your soul, as if your heart is slowly turning to stone. Even in moments of fleeting happiness, you notice a subtle tension. When laughter bubbles up or someone shares a moment of joy, you feel a distant echo of longing, a flicker of the warmth you've shut away. But instead of embracing it, you push it aside. You tell yourself that vulnerability is weakness, that showing emotion makes you vulnerable to pain. So you keep your heart guarded, tucked away behind layers of coldness. And with every act of emotional self-protection, you feel a little more isolated, a little more disconnected from those around you, and ultimately, from yourself. It's in these small, often unnoticed behaviors, your avoidance of deep conversations, the way you dismiss your own feelings, the cold responses that come too easily, that your internal pain becomes tangible. You carry it like a heavy backpack, packed with unspoken fears, regrets, and hopes that you refuse to acknowledge. Every day, this silent suffering manifests as a suffocating claustrophobia inside your mind, trapping you in a prison of your own making. The walls you've built to protect yourself are now confining you, making it impossible to breathe freely, impossible to truly feel alive. And as you sit in this emotional cell, you can't help but wonder, is this what real strength looks like? Or is it the quiet agony of a heart that's been betrayed by its own defenses? Sometimes, you must learn to be cold if you want to survive the chaos within and around you. These words echo a harsh truth, one that Niccolo Machiavelli understood deeply. He believed that true strength often requires emotional detachment, even from those we love. It's not about losing humanity, but about protecting yourself from the relentless wounds that vulnerability invites. At the core of this idea is a difficult but vital concept. Emotional self-preservation often demands a calculated coldness. When you face the unpredictable storms of life, especially in relationships, your instinct might be to open your heart fully, to show your feelings, your fears, your hopes. But this openness can leave you exposed, vulnerable to betrayal, disappointment, and pain. Machiavelli suggests that at times the most strategic move is to build walls, emotional barriers that shield you from the inevitable suffering that comes with trust. Imagine the pain of feeling deeply for someone, only to have that trust shattered. The heartbreak, the sense of betrayal, these are wounds that can scar your soul. So you learn to suppress your feelings, to respond with indifference, to keep your guard up. It's a survival mechanism, a way to avoid the devastation of emotional loss. But beneath this armor lies a paradox. The more you shield yourself, the more isolated you become. The walls you build to protect you also imprison your humanity, disconnecting you from the very essence of life, feeling, connection, vulnerability. This is where the emotional pain becomes so profound. You may find yourself going through the motions, appearing strong, yet feeling hollow inside. You wonder why relationships seem so fleeting, why genuine connection feels so elusive. The truth is, your own defenses have created a prison, a fortress that keeps others out, but also cuts you off from your own heart. Every act of emotional detachment is a double-edged sword. It may save you from suffering, but it also robs you of joy, intimacy, and authenticity. Ask yourself, are you truly protecting yourself, or are you sacrificing your own humanity? Is the pain of vulnerability worth the potential loss, or are you losing yourself in the process? What would happen if you allowed yourself to feel, to be seen, even with the risk of pain? Could embracing your vulnerability be the real act of strength? Or have you already convinced yourself that coldness is the only way to survive? As you ponder these questions, understand that this internal conflict is not just about others. It's about your own survival. Machiavelli's lesson is clear. Sometimes, to preserve yourself, you must adopt a cold, strategic stance, even with those you love. But beneath that lies a crucial curiosity. Could true strength come from mastering your emotions, not suppressing them? And as you stand at this crossroads, ready to explore further, you may begin to see that the path to genuine power starts with understanding and embracing your own human fragility. You may not realize it, but your tendency to suppress vulnerability and build emotional walls is rooted in a deep psychological pattern that governs your everyday life. This pattern, often born from the fear of pain or betrayal, manifests as a relentless need to stay guarded, even with those you care about most. You believe that showing weakness might expose you to harm, so you adopt a cold, distant stance as a form of protection. But in doing so, you are not acting from strength. You're trapped in an unconscious cycle that isolates you from authentic connection and true intimacy. Take a moment to examine your daily interactions. Do you find yourself dismissing your partner's emotional needs because you think opening up might lead to disappointment? Maybe you respond to a friend's vulnerability with a stoic silence, fearing that sharing your own feelings could make you feel exposed or vulnerable. Or perhaps at work, you conceal your true frustrations behind a mask of indifference, convinced that showing emotion is a sign of weakness. These behaviors are not signs of strength. They are echoes of a psychological survival mechanism that has become an automatic response. This pattern roots itself in the belief that emotional exposure equals vulnerability, which in turn equals potential loss or betrayal. You've learned, perhaps early on, that trust can lead to pain, so you avoid it altogether. As a result, your interactions become superficial, your relationships lack depth, and you remain disconnected from your own humanity. You might even convince yourself that this emotional distance is necessary for self-preservation, but in truth, it's a prison you've built around yourself, a fortress that keeps out not only pain but also genuine love and understanding. Recognizing this pattern is crucial. It's not a sign of weakness. It's an unconscious survival strategy that was formed long ago. You are not incapable of vulnerability. You are simply caught in a familiar automatic response that no longer serves you. It's time to question that old pattern and understand that true strength lies in the courage to be imperfect, to accept your own fragility, and to embrace vulnerability as a pathway to genuine connection. Real life constantly tests this pattern. Every day, situations arise that challenge your emotional defenses. For instance, when your partner shares a personal struggle, do you respond with empathy or retreat into silence? When a colleague criticizes you, do you lash out defensively or listen with openness? When you experience disappointment, do you mask your feelings behind a cold exterior or allow yourself to feel, to process, and to grow? These moments reveal whether you're unconsciously driven by fear or consciously choosing authenticity. Your behaviors reflect this deep-seated psychological pattern. The guarded posture, the emotional walls, the reluctance to trust, these are not signs of weakness, but of an ingrained survival instinct that keeps you from feeling the full spectrum of human experience. You are not broken. You are caught in an old unconscious pattern that once protected you, but now limits your growth and connection. Understanding this is the first step toward liberation. You are not weak for feeling fear or vulnerability. You are human. And in recognizing this, you open the door to transformation. The question is, are you willing to challenge the patterns that have kept you safe but also kept you isolated? Because true strength begins when you have the courage to be vulnerable, even with those you love most. And that courage can set you free to live a more authentic, fulfilled life. Now let's explore how to begin this journey of emotional liberation. Imagine for a moment how much of your life has been shaped by the need to protect yourself. How many times have you built walls so high that even those closest to you can't reach your heart? You might tell yourself that these walls are necessary, that vulnerability is a weakness, that to survive you must be cold, even with those you love. But beneath that armor, don't you feel the quiet ache of loneliness? The subtle sting of connection denied? Because the truth is, when you suppress your feelings, when you hide your fragility behind a mask of indifference, you're not just protecting yourself, you're isolating yourself from the very human experience that gives life its depth and meaning. You may have convinced yourself that being emotionally distant is a form of strength, a way to keep control in a chaotic world. Yet deep inside, you wonder if this emotional armor isn't just a prison, one that keeps you safe from pain but also from love, from genuine connection, from feeling truly alive. Every time you choose to be cold, to hold your feelings back, you're creating a barrier that not only distances you from others, but also from yourself. It's a paradox. In trying to shield your heart, you end up numbing it. And in that numbness, you risk losing more than you realize. Your capacity to experience vulnerability, trust, and authentic intimacy. Ask yourself, how much of your suffering is rooted in this fear of vulnerability? How often have you kept your true feelings hidden, convinced that it's better to be guarded than to risk the pain of rejection or betrayal? Because here's the core truth. Vulnerability is the very foundation of authentic connection. It's the courage to show your true self, to be seen in your rawest form, that opens the door to genuine intimacy. But to do that, you first have to confront the false belief that strength comes from emotional detachment. True strength lies in the courage to be fragile, to accept that you are not invincible. Now the question is, how long are you going to continue living like this? How long will you keep closing yourself off, building those walls higher, convincing yourself that it's safer that way? Because every day you choose emotional distance, you risk losing the chance to experience love in its purest form. You risk missing out on the profound connection that makes life worth living. And perhaps, more painfully, you risk losing yourself in the process, your authentic self, buried beneath layers of armor and fear. I invite you to reflect on this. Share in the comments how these truths resonate with your own experience. What fears keep you from opening your heart? What pain are you hiding behind your defenses? Remember, you are not alone in this struggle. Many have walked this path before you, and many will walk it after. But the question remains, how long will you keep hiding? How much longer will you deny yourself the freedom that comes with vulnerability? The choice is yours, and the time to decide is now. Every day you wake up and go through the motions, but deep down, you feel the weight of invisible walls built around your heart. Maybe it's the way you avoid expressing how you really feel about your partner, holding back your frustrations or doubts, because you're afraid that showing vulnerability will lead to rejection or betrayal. Or perhaps it's the way you keep a safe distance from friends, nodding politely during conversations, but never truly opening up about your fears or insecurities. Small gestures, like avoiding eye contact or dismissing compliments, become protective shields, keeping you from being truly seen. And in turn, you're avoiding being truly known. You tell yourself that this distance is necessary to stay strong, to prevent being hurt again, but what it really does is deepen the loneliness. Imagine that your partner asks how your day was, and instead of sharing the real struggles you faced, you reply with a vague, "It was fine," even though inside you're overwhelmed and exhausted. You might notice a flicker of disappointment in their eyes, but you quickly brush it off, afraid that revealing too much will make you vulnerable. Or consider the conversations with friends. You laugh, nod, but hide the doubts and fears behind a forced smile, convinced that revealing too much will make you weak or unworthy of love. These small acts of emotional restraint create a barrier that isolates you, even when you're physically close to those you care about. And then there's the fear of criticism. When someone points out your flaws or mistakes, instead of accepting it with humility, you dismiss or retaliate because admitting fault feels like weakness. You're caught in a cycle. The more you hide your true feelings, the more distant you become, not just from others but from yourself. You feel a gnawing emptiness inside, a sense that despite the effort to protect yourself, you're slowly losing the ability to connect authentically. You ask yourself why, despite all your efforts to guard your emotions, you still feel hollow and disconnected. It's painful to realize that your walls, meant to shield you from pain, are also preventing you from experiencing genuine love, trust, and intimacy. The emptiness grows, and with it, a deep dissatisfaction that nothing seems able to fill. In the quiet moments of everyday life, it's easy to fall into the trap of emotional self-neglect, especially in relationships that matter most. You wake up, go through your routines, and often, your feelings are the last thing on your mind. You hide your insecurities behind a facade of calm, afraid that showing vulnerability might expose you to rejection or pain. But the truth is, this emotional armor, this coldness you adopt, even with loved ones, creates a barrier that slowly erodes intimacy. Imagine sitting across from your partner, nodding politely, but feeling disconnected, distant, as if an invisible wall separates you. You avoid eye contact, dismiss small gestures of affection, and respond with defensiveness when conversations touch sensitive topics. Over time, this pattern becomes a cycle. You suppress your true feelings to protect yourself, but in doing so, you also deny your partner the chance to truly know you. This emotional self-neglect doesn't just hurt the relationship, it chips away at your own sense of authenticity. You convince yourself that being strong means hiding vulnerability. But what you're really doing is isolating yourself from authentic connection. When you refuse to acknowledge your fears, frustrations, or desires, you deny yourself the possibility of deep intimacy. Instead of sharing your struggles, you withdraw, building a silent fortress that no one can penetrate. It's a familiar pattern. Your partner asks how you're feeling and you brush it off, replying with a generic, "I'm fine," even when inside, you're overwhelmed or hurting. This creates a dangerous cycle. The more you suppress your feelings, the more distant you become, both from yourself and from those who care about you. The impact on your romantic relationships is profound. Love thrives on vulnerability, on opening up about fears and insecurities. But if you've conditioned yourself to be cold, to keep your emotions locked away, you sabotage that foundation. Your partner may feel rejected, unloved, or confused by your emotional withdrawal. You might think that maintaining a tough exterior protects you, but it ultimately pushes love away. To break this cycle, you need to confront your fears and accept that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness. Practice small steps. Share a genuine thought, admit when you're hurt, or express gratitude openly. It's terrifying at first, but each act of openness chips away at the emotional walls, allowing genuine connection to flourish. Now, ask yourself, are you willing to continue sacrificing your own happiness and authentic connection for the illusion of strength? Or will you dare to become emotionally honest, even with those you love most? The choice is yours. Because true courage lies in allowing yourself to be seen, vulnerable and imperfect. And in doing so, creating the genuine intimacy your heart truly craves. Your body is whispering, desperately trying to tell you something you're often too busy to hear. Every tight jaw, every lingering headache, every restless night, and every muscle tension is a sign that your emotional world is out of balance. When you suppress your feelings, when you hide your true self behind walls of politeness or superficiality, your physical health begins to show the strain. Stress manifests as stomach aches, migraines, or chronic fatigue. Anxiety tightens your chest, making every breath feel shallow, every heartbeat louder, more urgent. These are not random coincidences. They are your body's desperate messages, begging you to set boundaries, to be honest about what you feel, to stop sacrificing your emotional well-being for the sake of others' comfort. Think about the last time you ignored your emotional signals. Maybe you brushed off that pounding headache after a difficult conversation or dismissed the knots in your stomach when a loved one criticized you. It's easy to rationalize these symptoms as mere fatigue or stress, but they are, in fact, the body's way of telling you that emotions are building up, unexpressed and unaddressed. When you constantly deny yourself vulnerability, you accumulate unresolved feelings, resentment, fear, shame, that inevitably spill over into your physical health. Your body is begging for emotional boundaries, for the courage to say no, to admit you're hurting, to protect your energy from being drained by toxic relationships or unrealistic expectations. This emotional suppression creates a vicious cycle. The more you ignore your feelings, the more your body reacts with psychosomatic symptoms. Stomach ulcers from chronic worry, tension headaches from unspoken frustrations, muscle aches from emotional suppression. These symptoms don't just wear you down physically, they erode your mental clarity, diminish your resilience, and deepen your sense of disconnection from yourself. You might find yourself snapping at loved ones over minor issues, feeling exhausted despite rest, or losing joy in activities once meaningful, all signs that your emotional health is compromised. Your body is pleading for relief, asking you to draw clear boundaries, to allow yourself vulnerability without fear of losing love or respect. Recognize the signs before they become crisis points. Your body is a faithful messenger. Listen to it, honor it, and give yourself permission to be emotionally honest. The sooner you do, the healthier, stronger, and more alive you will feel. Don't wait until your body screams for your attention. Act now, because your life depends on it. Every day, you wake up feeling a weight on your chest, a silent drain that you carry without even realizing it. You go through the motions, smiling at your partner, comforting a friend, saying yes to requests, thinking that if you just keep giving, somehow things will get better. But instead, what happens? The demands grow. The more you open up, the more others expect you to fill their needs, their gaps, their emotional voids. It's as if you're pouring water into a bucket with a tiny leak, and no matter how much you pour, the level never rises. It only drips away, leaving you emptier each day. This cycle feeds itself like a vicious snowball rolling downhill. Every act of kindness, every moment you sacrifice your own boundaries, fuels an invisible hunger in those around you. They see your generosity as permission to ask for more. And because you're already exhausted, you find yourself unable to say no. Your voice muffled by fatigue, your energy drained so completely that even tiny requests feel like insurmountable mountains. You become a shell, a shadow of yourself, walking through the day on autopilot, barely holding on. Over time, this relentless giving begins to feel like carrying a heavy backpack filled with stones. Each stone representing a small sacrifice, a small compromise, a small piece of your own needs. Month after month, this burden grows. The emotional exhaustion seeps into your bones. Your muscles tense without relief. You notice yourself snapping at loved ones over minor irritations, feeling guilty but powerless to stop. Sleep becomes restless. Your mind races with endless to-do lists and unspoken regrets. Your body starts to send signals, aches, fatigue, headaches, warnings that your emotional neglect is manifesting physically. And yet, the cycle continues. The more you give in, the more others demand. The more demands you accept, the more drained you feel. It's an unbreakable loop, feeding on your own sense of duty and fear of rejection. As weeks turn into months, this pattern deepens, and the emotional snowball accelerates. Your internal world shrinks, replaced by a hollow routine of giving until there's nothing left. And in that emptiness, you begin to question whether anyone truly cares, or if your sacrifices are just fueling their comfort at your expense. In this relentless cycle, your sense of self weakens, replaced by a constant feeling of being used. The emotional exhaustion becomes a fog that clouds your clarity, making it impossible to see your own needs clearly. You become numb, resigned, wondering why you feel so disconnected even when you're surrounded by loved ones. It's a vicious spiral. Each act of giving only deepens the fatigue, each demand more impossible to refuse. And as the months stretch on, you realize that the cost of this endless giving might be your own sanity. So tell me, how long can you keep pouring from an empty cup before there's nothing left to give? Before you continue, if this message has touched something deep inside you, take a moment now to like this video. Your support isn't just a click, it's a sign that you're ready to break free from the cycle of exhaustion and emotional sacrifice. It's a step toward reclaiming your power, your peace, and your future. When you like, you're telling the universe that you're serious about change, that you refuse to remain trapped in a pattern of giving until you have nothing left. This simple act helps more people like you find this message, those who are tired of feeling drained, unnoticed, and overwhelmed. Remember, your journey toward strength and authenticity begins with small actions, and liking this video is one of them. Now let's reflect for a moment. You've felt the pain of carrying burdens that aren't yours, sacrificing your well-being for the sake of others' approval. You've seen how this cycle feeds your fears, making you believe that vulnerability is a weakness, that showing emotion means losing control. But deep down, you know this isn't sustainable. Your body aches, your mind races with anxiety, and you feel disconnected from yourself, like a shadow of who you once were. These symptoms are not accidents. They are the wake-up calls urging you to see the truth. You cannot pour from an empty cup. The philosophical insight from Machiavelli reminds us that sometimes, to truly lead and protect what matters, you must be willing to detach emotionally, to become resilient, even cold-hearted, especially with loved ones. Not out of cruelty, but out of necessity. Because only by mastering your boundaries and emotions can you break free from this endless cycle, restore your strength, and build genuine, healthy relationships. Your pain is real, but so is your power to change. You are not alone. You are capable. And now is the moment to step into that power and rewrite your story. If you found this message inspiring, please like this video now. Your support fuels the journey toward transformation and growth. Remember, no challenge is bigger than your capacity to change. The struggles you've faced, the emotional weight you've carried, they do not define who you are. Deep inside, there is a well of strength waiting to be awakened, a resilience that can reshape your entire outlook on life. Every moment of pain, every lesson learned, brings you closer to becoming the person you are truly meant to be. Change is not only possible, it is within your reach, waiting for you to take that first brave step. Believe in your capacity to evolve, to shed old patterns, and to embrace a new way of living. One rooted in authenticity, resilience, and self-love. You are not your past. You are the author of your future. The power to transform your life is already inside you, lying dormant, waiting for you to ignite it. Feel the hope blooming within your chest, a reminder that every day is a new chance to rewrite your story and forge a stronger, more genuine version of yourself. No matter how dark the night, the dawn is always coming, bringing with it the promise of renewal and hope. You have everything you need to rise above your circumstances, to stand tall and confident, even with the ones you love. Your journey is unique, and your capacity to grow is limitless. Embrace the possibility of change, knowing that every step forward is a victory. The future you desire begins today with your decision to believe in yourself. take that step and let hope guide you. Remember, this is just the beginning. The real transformation starts when you decide to take control and walk your path with strength and authenticity. The world is waiting for the powerful, authentic you. Now go forward with courage. Your best chapter is yet to come. Remember, what you've just reflected on is a powerful truth. Mastering the art of emotional distance, even with those you love, is not about becoming cold or unfeeling, but about protecting your inner strength and clarity. It's about understanding that your power lies in your choices, your ability to decide when to open your heart and when to hold back for your own well-being. You have the control to transform your emotional landscape, to forge a path of resilience and authenticity that aligns with your true self. The journey to becoming emotionally balanced is rooted in these decisions, in recognizing that your growth depends on your willingness to act with courage and clarity. So now, I invite you to take that step. Subscribe to this channel to continue receiving insights that empower your transformation. Turn on notifications so you won't miss the next video, because it's more than just content. It's the next chapter in your journey of self-mastery. And most importantly, watch the next video I've left here on the screen, because it's an essential step in deepening your understanding, in strengthening your resolve, and in embracing the version of yourself that is capable of true resilience and authenticity. This is your moment to choose to grow stronger, wiser, and more in control of your destiny. The future you desire is waiting for you to take that leap. Make the decision now, because your transformation starts today, and nothing is more powerful than a person who chooses to rewrite their story with courage.